Good morning and welcome to your Farm and Home Show. I'm Kristi Shive, and this morning we're visiting with Dr. David Weisenhorn. He's a senior extension specialist for this University of Kentucky. David, why is communication with youth so crucial for their well-being?
It's paramount. I mean, communication is just critical in any relationship, but so much for youth in expressing a couple of things. It helps the child express what's going on with them, and it helps us to receive information from them as well as to impart information and helping with the problem solving.
How can we tailor our approach based on their age and developmental age?
Taking like a 3 to 5 year old, somebody that might be in to kindergarten age, their life is play. So communicating with them oftentimes is engaging in that play activity, being really creative. Reading books are great ways to help show children what communication looks like and the expression of communication. So being playful, being fun, engaging in creative ideas is really important in that early stages. It's okay to ask questions, but when you do that, try and use simple language that they might be able to understand. And then also modeling that and saying, well, how was your day today? Can For a young child can be a good question. As we age, that becomes a more difficult question to answer.
Mhm.
And I'll talk about that. But early in life, that's a really good question for a 5 year old because you don't know where they're going to go with it. So those conversations can become lengthy, but can be fun and helping a child. Now, as you age, as you get to that next, maybe that middle schooler age, and we're talking anywhere from six to teenage, early teenage years, 6 to 12, maybe. That conversation looks a little different. It can become more of how was your day today, but maybe being specific, like what were the highlights of your day today? Tell me one good thing, one bad thing, because you can begin at that age to get into those one-worded answers. And then asking them those questions might also being reflective of how your own day, like, hey man, I had kind of a cruddy day today. I had a real challenge that I had to overcome. What was your day like? Did you have any challenges? Sometimes showing that this is the way I want to engage and this is the level of communication that I want to have with you can be a really good model for children, and that helps them to then reciprocate that. I think modeling is such a critical component of all that we do as parents.
Middle schoolers and high schoolers are a little bit more challenging. What advice do you have for us with that?
I mean, you're so right. Respect. I think so much when we communicate, we've got to think about this respect aspect, right? In middle school and in high school, they're really stepping into that independence. They're really beginning to try new things. Their opinions are becoming their own. Their values are being ordered in the way that they feel are important. And so, hearing differences in our opinions is probably going to be common. And it might, in some ways, depending on what the topic, can be alarming for parents. But this is where I would say, hey, really try and respect what they're hearing. Because when we begin to shut down those conversations, or we begin to say, that's not right, or that's not how we should feel, then they begin to stop sharing those. And so the more we can encourage that behavior, and I like scaling questions on it. If we're talking just basic about today, on a scale of 1 to 10, how was it today? Right.
Mhm.
And then using that scale, because we may get those one worded answers, using that scale to then say, if they say five, what would make it a six? What would make it a seven? Because that helps them then begin to process and order their day. One, it makes them reevaluate what was important today, how was the day, and then helping them to begin to see a better way by saying, hey, what would that improvement look like? What would it look like to make it a seven? And those answers may not always be the circumstances that they're in, but maybe more of how I can prepare myself. And so seeing and helping her identify ways to self-improve can be really good. And just doing that through communication allows her to see that. I didn't give her that response, but I allowed her to find that on her own.
If you would like more information, you can contact your local cooperative extension office and ask for the exclusive tips for parents, grandparents, and educators to communicate with youth. Thanks for joining us today on the Farm and Home Show, and we'll see you next time.